you started off as a group of friends from university.
Schulich
School of Business. Started as a bunch of friends from university, creating a company. You now have become the fifth fastest growing company in Canada by 2023, listed in the Globe and Mail. Long story short, how did you do it?
Welcome to Long Story Short, the show that dives straight into what matters. Join hosts Jaspreet Gerwal and Marco Matacchione as they sit down with bold thinkers to uncover the habits, traits, and turning points that shape their journey. This is Long Story Short. Fast, focused, and full of insight.
So welcome everyone to today's episode of Long Story Short. My name is Marco.
My name is Jaspreet. We're both JD MBA students at Osgoode Hall Law School and the Schulich School of Business. And long story short, essentially we just started it as a short form podcast where we can sit down with leaders, creatives, change makers, not polished bios, but early influences, pivotal decisions, and quiet values you carry forward.
And speaking of polished bios, I have the honor of introducing today's guest, Giancarlo Sessa, who is the co-founder and chief revenue officer of Blade Air. And now, Giancarlo, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit and read off some of your very impressive accolades. So you won the Airden Burles Startup Score Market Entry Award in 2019. In 2022, you were named as one of Forbes 30 Under 30 to watch, along with your co-founders. And you were also listed as EY's Entrepreneur of the Year for Ontario in 2023. So incredibly impressive resume. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, I appreciate it. And I forgot about the first one, to be honest. The Burles one, that was a while ago. Wow.
So tell us a little bit about your company, Blade Air, how you started, how the company's kind of evolved, and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, where we started is completely different where we are today. The ethos of why we're doing what we're doing has always remained the same. And kind of what that ethos has been is indoor air quality, sustainability, and Canadian made. That's always been the three pillars that has driven us when we started the organization. And maybe I'll kind of just start there. So there were three of us that started the organization, myself, Aiden, who I met at Schulich as well, and Aiden's brother, Joe, who we call him the chemist. He's the mad scientist behind the scenes. He was a chemical engineering student at TMU, which was Ryerson at the time.
Yeah.
Now, how it started was Joe and his love of growing tropical plants. The weirdest thing that, you don't really picture a university student doing. Joe, to cope with the stress of engineering, would grow cherry trees, lychee trees, all sorts of weird things.
So no mangoes?
No mangoes. That would have been great. I would have loved that one, actually. But that's what he used to do to cope with the stress of engineering. And in the winter in Canada, as we know, there's not enough light, there's not enough heat to grow these tropical plants. And Joe had to buy something called a growth locker. And essentially what it is picture a locker, has its own light, its own heat in there to allow him to grow these plants year long. And being a student, couldn't afford to buy a growth locker. But he's like, I'm an engineering student, so I'm going to build my own. And that's exactly what he did. And when he was building this growth locker, he saw a piece in there called the carbon filter. Now, the carbon filter essentially removed any smells from this growth locker. And when he was looking at this carbon filter, he saw that he had to change it once a year. It was a cylinder made out of metal. He's like, okay, really expensive, really wasteful. He's like, why am I replacing this entire thing when it's just the carbon inside of it that needs to be changed? He's like, there's got to be a way to just change the carbon in this filter. So he asked his friends at the time, and this was in 2017. He asked his buddies who were growing cannabis at the time. He's like, listen, guys. He's like, I know you're using these things for odor control. He's like, there's got to be one with a replaceable carbon cartridge on the market. They said no. So he's like, so just to be clear, there is no carbon filter with a replaceable carbon cartridge. The answer was no. So light bulb went off in Joe's head. He's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to design a carbon filter with a replaceable carbon cartridge. Came to Aiden and I at the time, who, once again, were at Schulich. We're always trying to start different businesses, and we always kind of try different things. And Joe came up to us with this idea. I was on the accounting path. Aiden was on the law path. That's what he also wanted to do. but we always knew we wanted to do our own thing. We knew absolutely nothing about indoor air quality, but we loved businesses. We're builders at heart. So we said to Joe, listen, we can do market research, see if this is something people like, determined that it was, hit the ground running, and started what was Blade Filters at that time, creating the world's first zero waste carbon filter.
Wow. I feel like you were meant for success though. Like I
You
feel
really
like
were.
you had enough like little like baby steps toward
Yeah.
that direction, and I feel like maybe you don't see it, but looking back at your journey, do you feel that now?
Yeah, you know what? So since 2019, I every night I keep a journal of everything that went on throughout the day. And the reason why I do that is because every New Year's Eve, I like to read back the entire year to kind of see the ups and downs and I've always had the belief that I know I'm capable of anything I set my mind to. I'm a huge like mindset guy. Like I love my morning routines.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, it really is about the entire journey, the people that you meet, everything that you do. And you do good, good comes out, and that's really what it is.
I really like that. Like you do good, good comes
Yeah,
out. I
that's a
feel
good
like
quote,
I feel like I
yeah.
live by that too.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the quote of today's episode.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true though. Like,
I want to hear more about, so it was a couple of friends essentially that started Blade Air. And I want to hear more about that dynamic and how it is
Yeah.
building a company together, because everyone says you are the people around you.
Right.
And in this case, you're all Forbes 30 under 30.
yeah.
So I want to hear
It's
more
a good
about that
group to be a
dynamic.
part of.
It is true though, it's so important to be aware of the people that you surround yourself with. You want to surround yourself, and we've known this for a long time, not just from the friends that we hang out with, but our advisors in the organization. We've always known that we're young guys. We don't know everything. We know that we don't want to make the mistakes that other people have made. So we've always been surrounding ourselves with other entrepreneurs, people who have done it over and over again, who can share that knowledge. Now back to your question on, what's the dynamic like? It's been fun. It's been a roller coaster ride just in the journey. And the journey is the most important part to us. We're in the day to day all the time. And sometimes it's good to kind of take that step back and see what you've been able to accomplish, because you don't always realize it. Now, working with friends, it doesn't feel like you're working.
Yeah.
You're having fun every single day. And the biggest thing is that you're not always, especially as an entrepreneur, it's not always going to be fun. It's not built for everybody. You're going to the highs are going to be awesome and you're going to celebrate it together. And the lows can be so low that I don't know how single founders do it. Like, hats off to those people, because we have each other to feed off of. If I'm feeling low one day, maybe it's Aiden or maybe it's Joe or maybe it's both of them who are like, okay, guys, like, we know why we're doing this. And that's where you always have to come back to. You need to have that intrinsic motivation, but surrounding yourself with people who can help balance that is awesome on those days.
So speaking of, the really high highs and the really low lows, 2020 was very much like a really big low, I think, for the entire world. And despite everything that, everyone was going through and the curveballs that businesses everywhere were facing, you and your co-founders actually found a way to take that as an opportunity to find a new avenue to success, which I think is just simply remarkable and nothing short of that. So do you mind sharing a little bit about how Blade Filters pivoted into what is now known as Blade Air?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is such an incredible part of our journey and such a pivotal moment for us. Now, so obviously in the cannabis industry, in March, actually, I'll say in January of 2020, we graduated school in 2019. So 2020 was our first year to actually do this full time. And we were so excited. We built an awesome pipeline in the cannabis industry. We went to a trade show in Vancouver in January, got invited by a bunch of clients to come back out in March to go see their facilities. So we're excited. We go out there. This is now March 2020. You start hearing a little bit about COVID.
Yeah.
And I remember the flight before us to Vancouver, everybody got COVID. And I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. So I remember when we got on the flight, I was the only one wearing a mask on this flight. I remember my mom made me wear it. She's like, you better wear this thing. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I wore it. I was literally the only one. And we got there. We were there for about 4 days. When we left, the world completely shut down. Our entire cannabis pipeline that we had built completely pretty much vanished. On the flight back, everybody was wearing a mask now.
Yeah.
And, the world was completely turned upside down. And for ourselves, we were in the indoor air quality space. We wanted to do something to help out. So we started looking at past pandemics. What can we do to help in terms of air quality? And saw HEPA as a key opportunity to help out. And we initially actually started these HEPA air purifiers. Our focus was, let's make a commercial air purifier. Everything else is more residential and commercial. We only want to be commercial. And at the same time, we wanted to make it Canadian made. And our focus, to be honest, was how can we help our cannabis clients and our manufacturing partners stay in business, keep their employees there? And we knew that had to do with good air quality.
Yeah.
So we created these air purifiers, started pushing it to them to help them, and then saw, wow, there's a bigger opportunity out there. So we started pushing into this new direction, started working with private schools. From the private schools, we started seeing some success. We then started saying, okay, what's next? Public school boards. Got a lot of no's. I remember I emailed and called pretty much every single superintendent, every single trustee, and I luckily got one call back from one of them basically saying, we do what the government tells us to do. The government's not telling us to push HEPA air purifiers right now, but, give me your number if anything changes, whatever. A few weeks go by, and I remember I was watching CP24 while I was calling a bunch of private schools, and it says, provincial government is providing $50 million to the public school boards to improve their indoor air quality. So I remember when I saw that, I was like, I need to find that guy's number that I called me
Everything
a while back.
changed
Go back and
immediately.
call history.
Everything changed, and I remember I called him. I went to voicemail, and I was like, hey, it's Giancarlo calling from Blade Air. I don't know if you saw what was on the news, but if you need something, we're here to help out. A few minutes go by, I get a call back. He's like, yep. He's like, send me this, and that. And I remember that night, I emailed everybody that told me no, emailed everybody that told me to get lost. And I basically told them the same thing. Like, here's who we are. We can help out. Let us know. We're around. And that was in, I want to say at this point, like August of 2020.
Yeah.
And from starting the year with pretty much zero pipeline because of everything that happened to the end of the year being able to do, like, I think this year we did like $1.5 million that year, to just completely shift that and kind of go into this new direction was so pivotal for us.
And I think before we wrap up here, so you talk about cold emailing, cold calling, you did a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. Where do I start? How do I do it? So what's your tips to success in terms of getting business and sort of getting the initial traction?
Yeah. And that's a great question. Everybody's scared of starting. I think that's the hardest thing. Once you, especially on the cold call game and just anything in general, you're going to get better as you go. Our strategy on kind of how we deal with our clients, it's the same how we deal with everybody. Relationships are the number one thing. Be genuine with who you are. You're trying to provide them a solution. You're not just trying to sell to them. Nobody wants to be sold to. It's, making them feel like they're doing something that's good for them, good for the people around them, and you want to make friends with people. That's the biggest thing for us. Life it's so finite that it's not worth making enemies. It's not worth any of that. Just be a good person, have fun with everything that you're doing, and everything else will kind of connect and follow through. But when you're starting, just go for it. Go for it. It's not going to know that it's not always going to go to plan. It's honestly never going to go to plan, but learn from your mistakes, learn throughout the journey, adjust, pivot, and that's really the biggest takeaway.
It's a powerful message. I feel like we need to start
I know.
another side venture
We're
now.
gonna start another podcast. So kind of just in summary, I guess you started off as a group of friends from university.
Schulich plug. We love Schulich.
Business. Started as a bunch of friends from university, creating a company. You now have become the 5th fastest growing company in Canada by 2023, listed in the Globe and Mail. Long story short, how did you do it?
Yeah. Long story short, it's one, don't be afraid to pivot. It's okay to adapt and to adjust. All businesses do that. The second one is surround yourself with amazing people. It's mentors, it's friends, and it's employees. Our employees are really what has allowed us to be the 5th fastest growing company in Canada, has allowed us to be the EY Entrepreneur of the Year, Forbes. We would not be able to do any of that by ourselves. And the last element is don't be afraid of failure. Go for it. Go for what you're doing. Enjoy the journey and learn from it.
I think those are all really great messages, especially don't be afraid of failure. I think that's one that a lot of people struggle with in every industry, regardless of whether, you're an entrepreneur, lawyer, doctor, musician. I think just getting started is the hardest thing to do, and honestly the most important, because you can't do anything before that happens.
Absolutely. I think you also need to be committed to your own success and just fostering it in whatever way you can.
Absolutely.
100%.
So with that, thank you so much, Giancarlo, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we know you're inspiring an entire new wave of entrepreneurs, 2 of which are sitting right here. What are we going to start? I don't know.
We'll
figure it out.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning into Long Story Short. Catch us next episode. See you then.
You've been listening to Long Story Short, where big lessons come in small doses. If you felt the spark, follow us, share the episode, and come back for more stories worth your time. We'll catch you next time.
Yay!